background cancellation. All right. Thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Melanated and Elevated. I am your host, Kia Wilson. We are joined here by Miss Joy Larkin, who is the CEO and founder of Live Narc Free. And super excited to have us with her. To have her with us as we really unpack this very, very popular phrase that is out here now, and really talk about, what it means to either be a narcissist or have narcissistic traits, and understanding that everyone can't be narcissist. So understanding what that looks like. So, Joy, let's go ahead and get us started. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself and about how you got into this work.
Absolutely. And first off, Kia, I just want to say thank you for, being patient, because I know we had some technical difficulties. So please, Lord God, help us to have a nice, smooth conversation today. So, yes, but thank you for allowing me to be on your podcast. Truly means a lot. So how I started was I had 3 and also personality disorder of borderline. And after dealing with those individuals, it really, something inside of me was telling me that I needed to change. I wanted better for myself, and I needed to heal. And I didn't know how to go about doing that. But one of the things that I did start to do was I started to speak out what happened to me, share my story with other people, and I realized how much an impact that it had on, other people, which meant that it helped them heal, it helped them to find, clarity, closure, and encouragement. So,
what did you notice about those situations that you were in that kind of gave you pause? Like, what were some of the signs that you noticed that those situations were not healthy?
Yeah, I would say, just the way that they talked to me, the way that, I felt when I was around them. I felt like not good enough. I felt like I was doing something wrong. I also felt like I couldn't be myself, like it was something wrong with me, and I didn't feel good around the people that, claimed that they loved me, the people that claimed they were my family. I mean, they really were a blood family, but I just didn't feel like I was welcome, like I was accepted, and that I was supported. You get what I'm saying? And so those were some of the things that I noticed that was unhealthy, and just, feeling belittled, being made fun of, bullied, and just put down all the time. So. Okay.
All right. And so when we think about like narcissism, and again, a part of me is super excited that everyone is like learning about this word, learning about what it means to be a narcissist, but sometimes also as things kind of get a hold of people, it now goes into this overuse almost, and this oversaturation to where now everybody's a narcissist, everybody's gaslighting. And not to say that those things aren't true, but I want to then kind of take a little segue and think about and talk about what is the difference between a narcissist, someone that has narcissistic personality disorder, versus somebody that has narcissistic traits. And so when we think about narcissistic personality disorder, literally probably 2%, I know it's definitely less than 5%, actually meet the criteria for a narcissistic personality disorder. Does that mean that they are not narcissists? They have narcissistic traits. And so what fascinates me about this is just not only like the lived experience I've experienced narcissistic abuse in several different points in my life, but also understanding what is it about ourselves that allow our energy to kind of, I would say, transmit that what do we call that supply that narcissists need? And like, how can we be better gatekeepers? How can we learn about, what these general traits are whether they're full-blown narcissistic personality disorder or have narcissistic traits, so that we can raise awareness and break the cycle and start like seeing these things before they happen and make a different decision. So, in thinking about narcissism, we've already kind of talked about how it can exist on a spectrum, right? And so there are some levels of healthy narcissism, believe it or not. Like, you can have a robust self-esteem, you can be confident. That will probably be on like super, super low end of the spectrum. People who are entrepreneurs, people who are go-getters, people who are successful, they all have a certain healthy level of narcissism to them, because you have to believe in yourself, right? You gotta think that you're the best in order to be able to like keep getting up. Once life knocks you down, you gotta have that intrinsic kind of, you know, go-getter type of mentality. I think about like Kanye West and about how in the beginning, before his complicated grief kind of turned his narcissism into like full-blown kind of probably NPD, but I look at his dialogue with his mom and like how she was introducing that healthy dose of narcissism to him, like that, okay, why not you? Like, you can do it. Like, you're amazing, you're talented, all those things. And I truly believe that that foundation that she laid in him allowed him to be able to take the risk and to do the things and to really like get in his bag to like be one of the greatest, you know, entertainers that we know, or producers that we know, you know. But then, as you kind of see, something with life will happen, and for a lot of people, that's usually what happens, right? That healthy kind of dose of self-esteem that we should have, or that should be fed into us by our caregivers, whether that happens or not, or, you know, life happens, trauma happens, and we never really heal from it. We then take that healthy dose of narcissism that everyone should have, and then it kind of turns into this pervasive thing that we use it to get our needs met, to trick people, to manipulate people, because at this point in time, our needs are the most important thing. And so how do we go about getting that need met by any means necessary, irrespective of anyone else's feelings, thoughts? And a lot of times that is as a result of a lot of unresolved trauma. We get stuck at that emotional age where the trauma happened, and all we know is like very low level, very low emotionally intelligent ways of going about relating to other people and getting our needs met. So I'll stop there and see if you have anything you want to jump in and add, Joy. Oh, we can't hear you.
Yeah, no, I think everything you said, you know, narcissism, it has been. Do you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we may have a delay, so no worries.
Okay, so okay. Yeah, it's kind of been off and on, but everything's good though, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. No, I was just saying in terms of, you know, narcissism itself, again, it's a personality trait, personality disorder, and essentially, you know, that person has an inflated sense of self. They're very self-absorbed, you know, and also, too, they can feel self-importance. Now, the average individual, yes, like you said, if they want to achieve great things in life, they have to believe in themselves. They have to, you know, be, you know, have a sense of self-importance, but not at the, where they hurt other people at their own personal gain or at other people's expenses, you know. And in terms of also narcissistic tendencies, you know, that could be also to where the individual is self-centered. You know, they may have a big ego and could be selfish in some areas of their life, but they're not, you know, really diagnosed, and it's not a full-blown disorder like how you know, the people who are diagnosed with MPD. So.
And just an FYI, guys, for those of you who are watching live,
okay?
Yeah, for those of you who are watching live, Joy may sound kind of choppy, but as we kind of go back and as I edited and re-release this, it's supposed to sound a lot better, so don't be dismayed. I think you'll be able to hear very clearly her amazing points once we finish the live recording. So again, my apologies. So now let's kind of do a visualization, because I'm realizing that a lot of people are kind of visual creatures, right? And so again, when we think about narcissism on a spectrum, one end, healthy levels of like self-esteem, feeling good about yourself. On the other end of the spectrum is narcissistic personality disorder. So as you see, there's a really like large space in the continuum of what this looks like. And so people with narcissistic traits, not the disorder, but traits, can exhibit very manipulative behaviors to satisfy their needs, because specific mechanisms in their mind make them feel as if they are implanting these guards to their self-esteem. And so the tactic is really about control, dominance, maintaining a positive self-image, even though the reality of their existence is very different. So if you imagine having a really big balloon, right? And so this balloon is your self-worth. And in most people, like when this balloon gets a little pinprick, it deflates. But it'll eventually repair itself over time. However, for a narcissist, their balloon is covered with spikes. And on the outside of it, it helps to keep any pinpricks from reaching inside. So I have such a very low sense of self on the inside, such a very fragile sense of ego, that I can't even take constructive criticism. I can't admit where I'm wrong. I don't have any self-awareness to see the parts that I've played in situations, because I'm so fragile on the inside in my ego that now I have these offensive kind of pricks and these spikes, to keep these pricks from reaching inside. And so those spikes that's on the outside of a narcissist kind of self-worth balloon can manifest as manipulation, gaslighting, control over others. They create this wall that people can't pierce. But on the flip side, you tend to have these very shallow, these relationships that lack emotional depth, because in order to have a fulfilling relationship, you have to be able to, number one, be able to communicate with someone. That's friendship, business relationships, whatever. And it's difficult to communicate with people who have difficulty being self-aware, introspective, and seeing ways that they could have shown up differently, made a different decision, and self-correct, right? You'll spend a lot of your time trying to convince them to see their areas of improvement, and meanwhile they're on the other end reminding you of all the ways that you're terrible, you're not enough, you made them do or behave or act a certain way, so it's all your fault. And what that does is that keeps that fragile sense of ego very intact, because remember, the narcissist is really the emotional age of, a young adolescence, where a lot of that emotional traumas came and started. And because we didn't have tools to learn how to integrate it into our lives and overcome, we keep that, and it turns into that wall, this wall that keeps people at bay. So, Joy, anything you want to hop in and mention?
No, I agree. I think that people with personality disorders are individuals that are incapable of change. They don't think that there's anything wrong with them. And, I think it's best for victims and survivors that have dealt with these individuals is to move on with their lives and, begin to focus on themselves and make sure that they don't behave like how the narcissist has, with them. So that way they don't continue that cycle on of abuse and, mistreatment and trauma and that sort of thing. So that's what I would say. But, narcissists, they're very immature individuals, and from my experience, there's no hope for them. But there is hope for the victim and the survivor. So,
Well, I will say this. If you are truly a person that has narcissistic personality disorder, I would say it's going to be very, very difficult for you to change those behaviors, to change your ways once it's reached the level of like a personality disorder. Because now, is it possible? I've never used absolutes. So it is somewhere deep down inside of you possible. But the thing is that the reason why narcissists very rarely change is because it requires them to be able to see outside of themselves. And they don't have the ability to do that. So if I know that in a relationship, I am presenting a certain way that is harmful to my partner, and I'm utilizing tactics to get my needs met instead of leaning forth and having emotional vulnerability, a healthy sense of self, so I know how to maintain the identity of who I am while reaching out and engaging with other people. It takes a lot of emotional maturity to be able to do that. And emotional maturity is obtained by literally being able to like get sick of your own shit and say, okay, what am I doing in this that is recreating these environments? Even for those of us who are highly sensitive people who attract narcissists. I know I'm one who is a magnet for narcissists. I know you were saying, Joy, as a highly sensitive person, you are as well. But what I have learned is that the higher I vibrate, the more I heal myself, the more I have an understanding of what my needs are in any relationship, friendship, family, romantic, and the more I have a solid sense of who I am and myself, I don't find myself attracting necessarily those same types of people over and over again like I did for like the past 20 years kind of thing. But do they slip through? Do people try it? Because I have a nature of me that is, empathic, highly sensitive, yes. But having an understanding of who I am helps me to create that boundary and see it before it happens. I no longer have to have somebody pissing on my leg and saying it's raining. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That's yellow. That's piss. Naive, right? But no, I'm able to see it coming from like a long way away and in a healthy, way. But something I wanted to bring forth and just helping to kind of understand where these people with these narcissist traits come from. These are not your NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. These are just your everyday Joe Blows where everybody's like, oh, my ex is a narcissist, my mom, my dad, my friend. Let's think about that for a second. How does the everyday person seem to have so many narcissistic traits? These behaviors tend to stem from unresolved trauma, as with anything else, right? Anything. Occurring in early developmental stages. So picture a child who was neglected, overly criticized, or felt the pressure to be perfect. And so this child may create what we consider to be a false sense of self to please others and to protect their wounded real self. Because remember, at the heart of a narcissist is this child with this wounded, fragile sense of self that's just trying to figure out a way to make control of their living, of their environments and their relationship. Because they don't want people to hurt them, they don't want people to abandon them, and they're so afraid that people are going to see them for who they really are. That's what, is the driving force. So, Jen, I got your question. I'll be right to you. So then with this false sense of self that we have to protect that wounded real self as the child grows, they may continue to protect this false sense through narcissistic behaviors. So a cycle is formed, right? This unending loop that often remains unbroken due to their lack of self-awareness. And so Jen had an amazing question that we were actually going to get to, Joy, which is a perfect segue for this, is, are these behaviors passed on via the generational habits of parents and grandparents? Yes, ma'am. So, I will say this. Narcissists can be made by like traumas, individual traumas that may happen, but that really happens very few and far between. A lot of these things that we're dealing with from other people are attachment-based stuff. And the root of it is anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, disrupted attachment, and then you have healthy attachment. But in childhood, we have needs from those caregivers that are supposed to be there for us, right? And that's how we learn about the safety of the world. We cry, our caregivers respond. Okay, so that shows us that the world is safe. Okay, our caregivers are there, they're going to meet our needs. But when we are in familial relationships where our caregivers were inconsistent in meeting our needs, whether because of drugs, poverty, domestic violence, intergenerational poverty and trauma, all of that, or even just their own unhealed trauma from grandma, grandpa, incest, molestation, going all the way back there. And we're going to talk a lot about intergenerational trauma in another episode because it's so deep, especially for African Americans. But yes, you grow up, you realize, okay, the people that are on this earth that are supposed to keep me safe, that are supposed to love me, that are supposed to teach me how to interact in the world and engage with others, they reject me. It's up and down. Some days they want to be bothered, some days they don't. Or they take care of my physical needs, but the neglect, yeah. So we don't have the tough conversations. You're hypercritical. Everything I do is wrong. I'm a bad person. I'm like my daddy, or I'm like my mom, or whatever. We carry forth all those wounds that we have not fixed, and we inevitably dump them on our kids because what we don't treat, we repeat. That's just modeling. That's the nature of modeling. So yes, Jen, to answer your question, it is passed down intergenerationally, and also it's picked up in other ways, but definitely at the crux of it is a trauma, a childhood trauma, a need that has not been met, a part that needs to come to the forefront and stop acting out in unhealthy ways to get their needs met. We'll talk about parts, working all of that as well. So yeah. Joy, jump back in, sweetheart. What you got?
Oh no, you pretty much answered that. I don't have anything else. I think that was great. That was great.
Something else that I think is important is that when we talk about narcissists, whether it's NPD or just narcissist traits, in their relationships, whether it be with their children, their partners, their friends, narcissistic people create a confusing environment. It is like literally gaslight central. And so they treat loved ones as extensions of themselves rather than separate individuals with independent needs. So this environment can result in a type of psychological abuse known as narcissistic abuse, which addresses a range of behaviors designed to belittle, manipulate, and control the other person for their gain. Ooh, something's going on. Hold on, Joy. You got something going on in the background there.
I'm sorry. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, is there a way that you can mute yourself?
Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Hold on. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I just needed you to mute yourself while you weren't talking because you can hear a lot of noise in the background. Alright. Okay, and so narcissistic abuse can be subtle. It can look like the narcissist is always right, like your feelings are constantly dismissed, or your memories are being doubted, a technique known as gaslighting. Let me just throw this in here right quick. Gaslighting came from a movie in which a woman was like made to think she was going crazy, and it turned out it was her husband or something that was doing things to make her think that she was seeing things, remembering things wrong, all of that. And so all of these things can lead to victims doubting their own sanity, self-worth, and even reality. due to the constant belittling and manipulation. So that is really important to note as well. Let me see. What else did I want to bring up? Joy, is there anything you wanted to jump in with? All right, so if thinking of,
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Oh no, I was saying we pretty much covered everything, so no, I'm good on my end.
Okay.
I'm good. Yes.
All right, so before we have you jump off, is there anything that you wanted to share further about your programs and stuff? I'm going to probably keep the live going for just a little bit of time afterwards, but because of our technical issues, I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of wrap up your end and then jump off, and then I'll finish us out.
Oh, okay, yeah. So basically, my programs, if anybody, is interested, they like to reach out to me if they want to learn more about how to heal after.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on, and definitely make sure that you tag all of your socials and stuff to this so people can learn more about the amazing work that you're doing out here. And again, we appreciate you so much for coming on and joining us today. All right. Have an amazing day, Joy. All right. Bye-bye. All right, guys. So, again, my apologies for just all of the technical stuff that was going on. That was a lot for me and probably Joy and you guys as well. So let me just make sure that I have a clear kind of recap of what we're talking about, just in case you guys missed some important things. Oh, okay. I need Joy. Hang up. Okay. Thank you. All right, so Joy hung up. Okay. So, just some final things that are important. We're going to just talk a little bit about how to overcome narcissistic abuse as well, but I want to make sure that everything that I really kind of wanted to pinpoint was out there and you guys were able to understand. All right, so let's talk a little bit about kind of intergenerational trauma and how it impacts narcissistic abuse a little bit more, because I think that's something that's important, especially as we talk about Black families and just kind of like the demise of our family structure and what it's looked like over time. So intergenerational trauma is when unresolved trauma, sometimes from like narcissistic abuse, is passed down from parents to their children. It's like an inheritance of painful, unconfronted issues that can really affect the child's well-being, leading them to develop several strategies that might resemble narcissistic traits. Again, I want to make that known. At times, we develop things that look like narcissistic traits as a result of unresolved trauma that is passed down from parents to children. It is not one person that I know that displays narcissistic traits that I cannot go back into their childhood or into some part of their life and be able to understand the why behind it. It doesn't excuse the behavior by any means, because we all have stuff and we're all required to deal with our stuff, address our stuff, so that we don't hurt and bleed people who have not caused us harm. But that's why so many wounded people walking around out here, so many people that feel selfish, feel self-absorbed, because they don't know. They've never processed, never healed from those things. So what happens when we have terrible things that happen to us? We then develop coping skills that protect us. And a lot of times those can resemble narcissistic traits. Also, narcissistic abuse, again, on the other hand, is a form of emotional and at times physical abuse perpetrated by individuals exhibiting narcissistic traits. They maintain control through manipulation, neglect, emotional exploitation, causing significant emotional damage. So, what are the ways that we are able to cope? What are the ways that we are able to heal? Let's get to the good stuff. All right. Thinking about healing, it involves several steps, and these steps are not as easy as we like to kind of like present them to be. It requires a lot of undoing. Like when you have been in a narcissistic, abusive relationship, it obliterates your self-esteem. I mean, I remember it obliterates your self-esteem. And it's almost as if you don't know who you are outside of being berated, outside of being abused, outside of being blamed. And it almost creates in you, like, again, we talk about the fight, flight, freeze, fawn. I noticed that for me, as a result of me having survived narcissistic abuse before I raised my level of vibration, my level of consciousness, my level of understanding of self, my thing was like fight. Like I was just determined that no one was going to put their hands on me anymore. No one was going to, make me feel bad, manipulate me, like none of that. And I met situations, interactions with that defensiveness. Was it deserved sometimes? Hell yeah, it was. But there's a way that I could have learned how to love myself and how to heal myself so that those people wouldn't even come across my plane, my threshold. And when they did, they wouldn't be allowed to linger so long to where they were able to do damage. But neither here nor there. All right, so 5 or 6 ways that we can recover from narcissistic abuse. Number 1 is to name it. Understand that you are or have been in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, family relationship, your mama, your daddy, your brother, whomever. That is important. Naming the problem is always the first step towards solving it. How can you fix something and you don't even know that it's a problem? Until you are able to stand in front of yourself and say those words, you're going to continuously make excuses for their behavior or for the situation. No contact whenever feasible. Try to cut off contact with the person inflicting abuse. This may not always be possible, particularly if there are children involved, but minimizing contact is a crucial step to beginning the healing process. Those of us who are parents, co-parenting with narcissists, or people with narcissistic traits, whew. It's almost, they say that when you're trying to co-parent with somebody, there is no co-parenting with someone that's a narcissist, right? You kind of have to do this thing where you're like parallel parenting, because you guys that person isn't going to be able to put their wants, needs, desire to hurt you, desire to inflate their ego aside for the kids. Remember that the kids are not something that they see as innocent, as their responsibility. It's a reflection of them. That's why when birthday time, Christmas time, we going all in, we're doing all the things because, hey, I get to look like I am this parent. I get to look like and play the role, and that's what it's about. How are these people in my life extensions of my own ego, extensions about how I feel about myself. So I'm able to use you in order for me to feel better about myself. Then I discard you when I feel bad about myself, because I shouldn't feel bad, because I want to evade accountability. So parallel parenting may be, your option. If you are able to go no contact, though, that is the preferred way. We tend to have this thing in therapy that we call gray rocking. That's when, if you have to go low contact with someone with narcissistic traits, you know how it feels to be on the phone with them, or be in situations where they're baiting you, or you have to walk on eggshells because you're like, oh shit, if I say the wrong thing, they gonna latch on to that, and here we are, kind of thing. So it's literally like you're trying to anticipate these landmines to walk on. But gray rocking kind of stops that. You literally talk about the bare bones of what's necessary. You don't make your stories entertaining, provide as little detail as possible, keep it very simple about, what needs to be coordinated, what needs to be done. Don't provide any extra information. Keep the conversation short and sweet. When you see it kind of going left, put a pin in it, stop, say you have to get off the phone, and that's your boundary. That's gray rocking. Another option is self-care, making time for your healing. I know y'all are going to say that I am probably partial, but I don't know one person that has been in the throes of anything with a narcissist, whether it's their mama, their dad, boyfriend, husband, whatever, that looks like boss, and would not benefit from going to therapy to learn how to kind of uncouple or untangle themselves from that, because it can really do a number on your self-esteem. Really doing a number. That's how people are able to stay in abusive relationships. I get so pissed off when I hear people say stupid stuff like, oh, why did you just leave? Or, no, it's not like people come out the gate just stealing on you. No, that's not how it happens. They literally come in and they love bomb you. They do all the things that you wanted, that you said that you wanted and needed. And that's why I advise people who are dating, keep some stuff close to your chest a little bit. Don't go and start trying to disclose all the things that you've been wanting in a partner you need, because with someone who is very shallow emotionally, all they're going to do is just be a robot and do the exact thing that you're saying that you want. So how will you know if that's truly them, or if you're just giving them the roadmap to get into your drawers, or, get into your heart, whatever the case may be? I was the queen of naivety, but it was because my attachment and my need to be loved and be accepted was so great that I would know the signs and see it, but I would be like, nah. But it was there. Okay, so that is one. Healing yourself, getting into therapy. Don't try to do it on your own. I'm telling you, therapy is life-saving. It's one of the hardest things you will ever do, but when you come out on the other side and you're able to see how you've been doing life all wrong, and how you're able to cultivate a life for yourself that feels good, honors you, man, yeah. All right. Professional help, we talked about that a little bit in terms of the self-care, remembering to do things that are going to nourish your mental and emotional space. And then finally, really setting boundaries. This is hard for a lot of people, because the narcissist is almost like when you spray a roach with Raid and it just start doing all that. The narcissist does not like boundaries. They do not. They will go off, cuss you out, tell you all the ways you're terrible, you're not fair, you're abusive, all of that, because boundaries are their kryptonite. You got to learn to establish and learn to enforce your personal limits, understanding what behaviors you can tolerate and what behaviors you can't. This will help you to avoid falling into similar situations in the future. Be better than me. Again, I went from one narcissist situation to another, and it wasn't even just necessarily romantic, but in other areas of my life, again, like a magnet for it. But it was not until I healed and I addressed my trauma, addressed my attachment stuff, got my self-esteem together, that I was able to say, okay, So you are the common denominator in attracting a lot of broken people. Are they broken? Hell yeah, they broken, yes. But what is it about you that is got something on the inside that's causing you to trauma bond to these really dysfunctional people? People that are the same people, just different faces, different names. Some worse than others, though, just saying. Some worse than others. I didn't know. Alright. I think that may be about it. I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I feel kind of drained now. It's been a lot with getting all of this technology and stuff kind of worked out. We've been working at that since like 4:15. So yeah, I don't really have too much of anything else. But I do want to leave you with this thing. So remember we talked about like mental health tips. As we talk about narcissists and kind of what this looks like, remember that you have to be okay with being the villain in somebody's story. Everybody's not going to like you. Everybody's not going to like the work that you're doing, the changes that you're making. And if you continue with that people-pleasing need, which is basically a fawn trauma response of wanting everyone to like you, you're going to live a life that is going to be full of chaos. You got to be okay with being misunderstood and not liked, but as long as you know who you are, like, you know, you got to stay all right with that, okay? So the quote for the day is, be okay with being the villain in someone else's story. Just be all right with it, because it's going to happen. You can't control how people think and feel and what they think about you, and you got to be willing to be the villain for people who aren't willing to do their own work and clean their own shit up. And that's a very small trade-off to be able to get rid of some dead weight. Just saying. All right, so as we wrap up, remember, I am a licensed psychotherapist, but I am not your therapist. If you are in need of any sort of mental health assistance or in crisis, please dial 911. Head to your nearest emergency room or your local CSB. If you need help finding a therapist, shoot me a message. I will try my best to assist you. Mainly, I will direct you to psychologytoday.com, where you can filter for your presenting issue, your insurance, see what the therapist looks like, all of that, kind of one-stop shop. Also, as well, I just had a brain fart. I don't know what I was about to say at the end, but I think that's it. All right, y'all take care of each other. Love each other. I will see you guys next week. I'm thinking about doing this every 2 weeks, though, because I have like 3 clinicians under me, and I am reducing my caseload so that I can have more admin days. And I just don't want to overload myself because I'm living a soft life. So we'll see. I'll keep you guys updated. But again, thank you guys so much for supporting. And we'll make sure to get this edited, get this sent and re-released. Probably next Sunday if all goes well. Have an amazing day, guys. All right, bye-bye. Wow, there we go. Okay.